Hi, welcome back. It is In-Game Live Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Hour number 4 of our 4-hour extravaganza. Texans and the LA Chargers starting off our NFL postseason. We got Pittsburgh and Baltimore starting later on tonight. Joe and I will kind of break down that one as well. But for now, we got the Texans leading 13-6, Joe. They got the football, though they're going to punt, I assume, 4th and 3 from their own 44-yard line. It's I want to say it's been back and forth, but it's been a weird game. If you're sitting on the over, this thing should have gone over, but a couple of field goals by the Chargers when they had the ball deep inside the Houston territory. Both teams turning the ball over in the red zone, especially the Texans, not once, but actually really only once because the other one was waved off. But they've had scoring opportunities and it just hasn't materialized. So 13-6. Texans laying 3.5. Over-under is down to 29.5. Your thoughts on the first half of the new viewers? How are things going for you?
I don't know. Is that a loaded question, Scott? Because I'm disowning friends right now on my phone on the commercial breaks that are all of a sudden Houston Texans fans that I had no clue even liked football. But as a Chargers down in this one, as a fan, this is gut-wrenching to see. But as a bettor, I keep reminding myself the Chargers are only down 1 score. The value is coming in here on the Chargers at plus 196 on the money line as the Houston Texans just punted the ball back to them. So down 1 score, I think they have every opportunity to get back in this game. They're going to have to get things worked out, though. This has not been pretty so far. We haven't seen those touchdown conversions by the Chargers held to only 2 field goals. It looked like Cameron Dicker, the kicker, was easily going to be able to go over 7.5 kicking points. He's been stuck at 6 since the start of this game, Scott.
That's right. Forgot about that. Yeah. We put so many plays in. Over 7.5. You're right. First 2 possessions, 6 points. You couldn't have asked for a better start. But they've done basically nothing since then, Joe. I mean, even Justin Herbert. We talked about it. He had 4 completions, 4 for 4 for over 40 yards on that first drive. I mean, right down the field they went. And since then, he's got 6 completions. 6 completions Scott, for about 70 more yards. So
there's a touchdown, defensive touchdown by Houston, I think, plus 750 right now for the Chargers to win. I'm seeing 19-6 on FanDuel. What the heck just happened out there on the field? Because I am losing my freaking mind now. Like I went from 1 score down to Justin Herbert throwing his 5th interception of the season to win this game for the defensive touchdown by the Houston Texans.
Wow.
I'm going to change my jersey on the next break. I cannot wear a Joey Bosa jersey anymore in this game. It's got to be changed.
Wow. Not a good pass either. He was throwing it in a flat. It was, these are one of those that I was looking for earlier when I was saying first touchdown, Houston or Chargers defense. Some dude named Murray, is it? He's throwing
right over Lad's head.
He watched it. He threw it too high, looking for McConkey. Went to the defensive back who was sitting behind him, and right down the sidelines, he went about 30 yards, touchdown. 20-6. Wow, just like that. Now your over-under is 36.5. That's in play. Now the Texans laying 9.5. All right, so now we got to look at the, just from in-game live, you got to look at the Herbert passing yards, right? He's at 118. They're giving you 223.5. Is he going to throw for 100 yards, basically? More than 100, 120, 110
anyway. Can he throw this ball today? Like, Kenny, I just really am questioning Justin Herbert in this game, right? Like, he's not getting anything done. The running game's not happening.
I mean, he's been so successful in a regular season, but postseason, it hasn't been the case. I mean, guys have different stops. Josh Allen's stop is the AFC Championship game. Justin Herbert's first round of the playoffs. I mean, man, he's got to play better than that. How many passes did he have? 230 or so coming into this game without an interception, and now he's got 2.
Yeah.
Wow. What are they offering for a 3rd interception? Are they?
Not even looking. I'm not looking, Scott. I seriously, it is plus 172. Oh, and look at this. CJ Stroud to throw another interception is plus 630. They're not going to pass the ball. They're going to run the ball, right? So plus 630, I wouldn't even take a shot on it. There's no way Houston's going to be dumb enough to throw that ball.
Yeah. I mean, even his passing yards, Joe, look at it. He's got 277, Stroud, and they're giving you 301.5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tell you, you're right. They're not going to be throwing the ball much, but they're still in the third quarter. So they're going to have one or two possessions. And even if they run the ball a couple of times, there's going to be a couple of 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s where he's going to have to throw the ball. I think I'll take my chances. He throws for 24 yards in the fourth quarter with Stroud. I'm more comfortable with that. But now look at a Herbert thing. Boy, that just dropped down to 216.5.
Yeah.
People are jumping off that one. That what was that? That was what did we say? 224.5, 225.5, something like that. It was a second ago. Yeah. I'll play over Stroud. Little shekel. I think, like I said, get the entire fourth quarter. There's got to be a couple of drives where he's going to have to throw the ball a little bit. So I think he'll throw for 24 yards.
Yeah, and Mixon, 39 rushing yards, 59.5 rushing yards is his number. I could see Mixon definitely getting worked in this fourth quarter coming up here, Scott. So it looks like the Chargers went to a straight play with Gus Edwards, and this defense had him lose yards there as well. So second down for the Chargers, and I think they're 2nd and 12, Scott, from what I just saw, end of the third quarter.
How about Nico Collins? He's got 122 yards receiving. They're giving you 125.5. Wow. I'd play that as well. I think they're really, listen, they're not up, 3 scores here. And if the Chargers score, and you know how these defenses play, you up 2 scores, you play lax. I mean, they're only up 1 score. I tell you, I like these over props with the he's the only guy they're offering, on FanDuel anyway, Collins. And even if it does get to a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, where they are going to throw the ball, who are you going to look towards? You're not going to be throwing the ball to Dalton Schultz. You're going to be looking for Nico Collins, and it's 1 reception, 3 yards, 4 yards. No. Give me over 125.5 Nico receiving yards. I like that. And then you got to go with McConkey, right? Down 2 scores, forget about running. You're going to be throwing the ball. I would think that McConkey's going to get 25 yards here, or 30 yards, basically.
How many receptions does he have right now? Receptions you've got to look at. He's still stuck at 5. So his number of 8 is minus 129, is plus 198. That last, that touchdown score did go on a pass that was meant for him. It went straight through his hands, Scott. So, but he's got the best hands out there on the team, so they're going to have to turn back to him.
Yeah. It's weird. They don't, they'll give you, at least here in New York, they'll give you alt receptions, Joe, but they won't give you what his normal number is. Now, you usually call 8 receptions is minus 120, so I guess that's what it would be, but, you would think you'd just have a category for receptions for all these players, like you have receiving yards. Yeah. But they don't have that.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I've got exactly the same thing. So,
yeah. All right,
got to search for some of these
3 more. Yeah, I agree with you. He's clearly the guy that he's going to be going towards. So if he doesn't get 3 more, it's not because they didn't try to get him the football. I'll tell you that. And now it's locked up.
What is he for a touchdown? I still think he gets in the end zone, plus 330.
Yeah.
I still think he gets there. I think if you haven't bet it, right? Like you could jump in on that. I'm going to go change my jersey on the break, Scott. This one is bringing us a lot.
All right. Go ahead.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, it is going from bad to worse for Charger fans, including my partner, Joe Madden. Scott Wetzel here until 8 p.m. Eastern time. Another interception. This guy went over 200 passes without throwing an interception. He now has 3. This one nearly returned for a touchdown. They got it at the 4-yard line. Houston leading the LA Chargers 20-6, ready to blow this thing wide open. Laying 14.5. Over-under now is 39.5. So we still got a quarter of football left, basically. So let's get some winners. This game, also the Pittsburgh and Baltimore game, which starts in about an hour or so, from our good buddy Eitan Shander. Check out his picks and all the good stuff that he has. Oddshoppers.com, oddshoppers.com. What's going on, Eitan? How are you, my friend?
I'm doing better than Joe from a fan standpoint, but she represents a couple of my tickets right now. Always a pleasure to be on with both of you.
Yeah, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you here. So you are backing my Chargers, I guess, as well. Like, everyone really thought the Chargers wanted the Houston Texans, right? Like, dangerous
Absolutely.
dogs.
There was a system this year, and it's great because it works not only with the Harbaughs, but anybody. Like, it worked with Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh because they were best men at each other's weddings. But people talk in the NFL. Brothers talk in the NFL. We know the Harbaughs talk. This system, Joe, was 5-1-1 ATS this year before this game, in which a mutual opponent, anybody who played either of the Harbaughs first time around, then they played the next Harbaugh, again, was 1-5-1 against the spread. What happened on Christmas Day? Houston got flattened by the Baltimore Ravens. You're telling me that these two guys, the two Harbaugh brothers who are joined at the hip, don't have a phone call? Hey, you know, what happened here? I'm shocked. And ultimately, it comes down to just Justin Herbert and the terrible performance. But that just goes to show you how really important this position is. And when people say, oh, the quarterback and a mediocre the quarterback position will never truly save you unless you're Patrick Mahomes, but it will kill you pretty much 95% of the time in the postseason. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a great system, a head coach who was, 4-0 ATS in each of his first 4 playoff games, in Jim Harbaugh. And it takes that crumb, Justin Herbert, to crumble this entire day for us. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But, you know, I've got C.J. Stroud 2 passing touchdowns. I don't think he just threw another touchdown, right? I saw them at the 4.
Fourth and 9. Yeah.
He got sacked. They kicked the field goal, 23-6 now.
There we go.
And now it's down to 13.5. So where do we stand on Justin Herbert, Eitan? Let's assume that they end up losing this game. He's throwing 3 picks. All 3, were bad. They weren't like, okay, it got deflected and popped out of a guy's hand. I mean, he overshot his last receiver, threw it a double coverage to one guy, overshot the other receiver. I mean, everyone has their little drawbacks. Josh Allen's got to prove he can get to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, to me, has got to prove he can win the postseason, right?
I think you have to get out of this round, and it's not easy to do in any sport to where you just magically figure this thing out, right? Lamar Jackson, for all intents and purposes, is about to win the MVP. Right. And people are going to be like, well, he hasn't won. Jalen Hurts, he lost in the Super Bowl. You've got all the talking heads on TV asking whether or not the Eagles can trust a quarterback who took them 2 years ago to the Super Bowl. So unless you win it, and I think you win it multiple times over because everybody wants to compare to Patrick Mahomes, to LeBron James, to whoever it is, right? Ovechkin, whoever.
There's another one, right? Who trusts Jared Goff? And he's been to a Super Bowl. So you're right. It's got to be there twice.
Yeah. I think there's something to that, though, right? Like zooming out, there has to be tiers. So forget, does Justin Herbert win you a Super Bowl, Scott? Does Justin Herbert consistently get you out of the first round? And if the answer is no, he's not in the right position. Because I tell you what, Jim Harbaugh and this Chargers team with that defense, they were built to go out and contend. They were built to be an irritant or at least an upset-worthy dog deeper into the postseason. And Justin Herbert let them down.
Yeah, he really did. I have no rebuttal for that. He absolutely did. Throwing 3 interceptions in a game when he came into this game with only 3 interceptions in the regular season is just unbelievable here. Against the Houston Texans, they have got a great secondary here, but they don't have a really solid run game. I'm not sure what has gone wrong with the game plan in this one, but let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. What have you got in tonight's matchup?
So I'm looking at this game, and by the way, as far as Mixon is concerned, I do have a 60-1 ticket for him to be the playoff lead rusher, right? So that's basically saying that if Houston can get to the AFC Conference Championship game, I've got a pretty good shot at cashing that out. So that was my other side of it. Tonight, I think you have to look at 10.5. That's where it was earlier for me, where I jumped on Pittsburgh at 10.5. There are 2 things that are working against that, right? It's how Pittsburgh looked towards the end of the season, and it's how Baltimore looked towards the end of the season. But a lot of that gets thrown out. And I think the biggest thing I look at is you're now dealing with the third time around. That's why I didn't want my Philadelphia Eagles taking on that Washington Commanders team. That third time around can be tricky because now you've got 2 opportunities to look at film and to adjust. I get it. Mike Tomlin's team looked lost. He looked lost at times during that just fall apart that we saw from this team basically after they lost to the Eagles. It was just downhill. But if you look at the postseason, especially in the first round, a lot of times when you get a shocker, when you get an upset, when you get a team that's just like, oh my goodness, how did they win this game? And that's not, by the way, the Houston Texans at home as a measly 2.5 point underdog. I'm talking about as far as a 10.5 point road dog like Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers, everybody looks at them as regular season. What happened in the regular season? A lot of things changed. Things slowed down, drive stall, as we just saw. A guy who could go 1,000 straight completions, right, hyperbole, without throwing an interception, all of a sudden looks like he doesn't know how to throw a football, like he's throwing it with his other hand. So I'm not saying Lamar Jackson's going to forget how to throw the football or Derrick Henry's going to start running backwards, but it would not shock me if we're looking at a tight game. It would not shock me if we're looking at a neutral game script for Baltimore where they're going back and forth with Pittsburgh for about 3.5 quarters. That defense with Pittsburgh, if healthy, can be aggressive and get there. So I took the 10.5. I'm inclined to go under as well, but I hate in the first round doubling up dog and under. So I kind of had to choose my, I guess, poison, if you will.
Pick your poison. That's the best way. Eitan, great job as always, my friend. We'll do it again. I know you're limited on time tonight, so normally we'd have you on again, but or for a second segment. But
well, how long's the next segment? How long's the next segment?
5 minutes.
I'm here.
Good. All right. We'll talk Eitan when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. In-game live game day, pro football game day on the grid. What do we got for our viewers? A little scoring update. Yep. Pop it up there. No. Yep. There we go. All right, we got good news and bad news. Oh, double score. Someone hit the wrong button, you say? No, they didn't. They did the right thing. We got two scores. We got a Chargers, 70 or so yard touchdown pass to Ladd McConkey. They kicked the extra point. Unfortunately, it was blocked and picked up by Houston and returned for 2 points. So when the dust settles, it is Houston now 25 and the Chargers 12. We're at 37. We got 10 and a half minutes left to go, Eitan, in this game. Talk about Eitan Shander, oddshopper.com. This dopey game might go over after just being dead in the water. Joe and I talked about Notre Dame and Penn State the other day. This has got the same thing. I mean, when everything is said and done, here come all the points. And if you ripped up your under ticket, go get some Scotch tape because you're very much alive in this one.
So here's the thing. Not only are the Chargers, they're down 14 points, right? Two touchdowns. So You've got a full quarter. It's playoff football. As Scott Hansen likes to say, this is the witching hour as far as the game itself. Crazy stuff can happen. And if Justin Herbert, does this game go overtime? It's probably not a plus EV bet that you can place live right now. But if you wanted to have some real degen action and ride something out here, what's that? Plus 2,000, maybe 2,500, something along those lines. So you could go crazy here. But Herbert, it's either like Herbert's going to do something special or he's just going to walk up to somebody on Houston and say, here, just take the football.
Yeah, this is why, Dusty, Eitan, you can't bet an under in these games. You just can't. I mean, you can have the worst offense in the history of mankind. And even tonight, I mean, I'm going to bet the under on the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. But I will tell you that thing jumped up to 44 and a half for some dopey reason. Pittsburgh and Baltimore? Baltimore without their best wide receiver? How do you
First round of the playoffs for me, Scott. For me, I try to do the same thing as far as Monday night and really Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night. Pick one, the dog or the under. Now, a lot of times you'll get like an outright winner and the under, and then the books are just sitting back like, ha, ha, ha. But usually there's some give and take, right? And there's no conspiracy or some laid out plan where I've got 15 years of data. It's just looking at these matchups. A lot of times you're like, okay, a spread maybe north of 5.5, right? You're looking at the dog, a total that's somewhere up by 49 and a half. You're looking at the under. In the case of tonight, I think it's, again, one or the other. We talked about that. I'm on the 10.5, but I'm not hating the under. Especially after this game, if it goes over, I think you have to take another hard look at that under. And you probably have to swallow a pill and say it doesn't feel great. But how many times do these unders pop all the time in primetime playoff, and they never feel great?
Any dogs you're looking at tomorrow for us?
Yeah, I think right now, the one team that is probably the most dangerous, and it pains me to say it, but it's Green Bay. And this line is incredibly tight for a team that is just outmatched in a lot of spots, especially missing Zaire Alexander on defense and Jordan Love, question mark. Jalen Hurts is fine. There's no issue there. But this was at 3 on a hypothetical look ahead. I gave it out at Shander Betts. You're welcome, all there who followed. And now it's, 4.5. But think about that, Joe. It hasn't climbed. It hasn't hit 5.5 with Jalen Hurts returning to practice. So I think the Packers are live anything north of 3.5.
Any props, by the way, for tonight?
To be honest. Sorry?
Any props for tonight that you like, by the way?
Yeah, actually, I think Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, 2+ passing TDs each. I'm going to play them solo, but I'm also going to put them together. And that flies right in the face of the under, but you can still get, right? You can still get 28 total points and maybe a field goal here or there and be under. But I like those as far as player props. I think when you get closer and you get tighter, it's not just going to be hand the football over, run. I think you see some chances here in the air, especially from Russell Wilson.
Anytime, great job, man. I know you got to run. Let's get him out. He's got to do something. Shander Betts.
Look, you don't have to out me everything. I'm hanging with y'all, man. It's fine.
We're basically done. We're done. We've had enough of you. Go ahead. Get lost. We'll talk to you next week. All right, man. Shander Betts. Check it out. All right, so we're down to 9 minutes now. We'll recap everything when we come back in game live Pro Football Game Day on the Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Pro Football Game Day here on the Grid. Thanks again, Eitan Shander. Check out his website, shanderbets.com, for all his plays. So here's the situation. You know, what the defense couldn't do, the offense is doing for the Houston Texans. And what's that? That is eating up clock. You know, they had a 3-score lead with 12 minutes or so left. And the last thing the Texans wanted was a quick touchdown. That's exactly what the Chargers were able to do. 86-yard touchdown pass to Lad McConkey. So Chargers, defense now has to step up, right? And you know what? The Texans are getting first down after first down after first down. They got the ball 2nd and 8. We're down to 6.5 minutes, though. So they've chewed up some time. They're down 2 scores. LA is. They got to get the ball back here. They got their timeouts. I know that. But, a nice 3 and out is what they were calling for. And that's exactly what is not happening. So interesting situation, Joe. They have it 4th and 1 at the Charger 38-yard line. 5.5 minutes left. Field goal would be a 55-yarder. You get the first down, and man, that's really gonna put a crimp into the chances of the Chargers coming back. I think I would go for the 4th and 1. I got a feeling that's what the Texans are gonna do.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's what they're going to do as well. Scott, everything is completely tied up on the books here. And this is why I felt so uneasy going into this game. You look at this, no one gave the Houston Texans the respect coming into this one, thinking it was going to be an easy matchup for whoever got to face them. We look at tomorrow's slate. Who would be that team in tomorrow's game? I think it's the Denver Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills. Could we see a situation where maybe the Denver Broncos don't win it like we're seeing with Houston? Houston challenging right now for that first down. It's going to be a first down.
CJ Stroud had a scramble. Yeah, he got the first down.
Absolutely did.
Boy. And if that's the first down, you run the ball 3 more times, that's 2 more minutes off the clock, or Chargers forced to use their timeouts. Either way, they're benefiting. But I would be shocked if that wasn't a first down. Although I said that about the interception, so who knows? As far as tomorrow goes, who's going to pull off the shocker? We'll get into the Pittsburgh game. Once this first game is over, I think Denver's going to give Buffalo a game. I don't think they're going to win. But Sean Payton is pretty darn good as an underdog. The numbers for him and the numbers with rookie quarterbacks in the postseason, I'll say not good. But over the last 2 seasons, we saw C.J. Stroud last year win as a rookie. They're 2-2 in the postseason these last 2 seasons. So he's more than capable of doing that. And Sean Payton as an underdog, 10-4 as a 7-point dog or more, 4-1 as an underdog in the postseason. They're great this year against the spread, 12-5. They've been upsetting the apple cart. If you want a fluky one, I will tell you, Denver 9-0 straight up, 8-1 against the spread after facing Kansas City, which, oh, by the way, they did last week. So I'm thinking that would be the one. I really like Philadelphia. I don't like Green Bay at all. I love Tampa Bay, hate Washington. So Denver plus the 8.5 points would be the one that if you said someone were to win, I'd be a little surprised, but it'd be like, yeah, I thought they were going to give them a game. This is a pretty good Denver Bronco team.
Yeah, and they're also playing with house money, right? Like no one expected the Denver Broncos to make it to the playoffs. Same with the Houston Texans. People, they won their division, yes, but no one gave them a chance in this. So they were coming in playing free, playing with house money because no one expected them to be here. And that's what the Denver Broncos will be in that situation. Sean Payton able to take a rookie quarterback to the playoffs with them playing so strong. Get out in the first round. No biggie, right? Like that's not a detriment. They had a positive season making it to the first round. So it's a team that's going to be playing free. I love the Denver Broncos plus the 8.5. Do I expect them to win? Probably not. It is Josh Allen on the other side. But yeah, if we're looking at who could be that upset, and it does look like they didn't get the first down, but then they just had the first down attempt here for Texans on 4th and 1, and they were able to get it.
All right. You know what happened, Joe? You hear this all the time on TV, but it really is not the case. But the line that they show you on TV is not the official first down line. And the line was like a yard short of the first down. When they showed them measuring the ball, I was like, well, wait a minute. That yard marker is not where that line was. And sure enough, the yard marker was about a yard ahead. So, but you're right. They did just get the first down. It actually helped, in the end, it helped the Texans because they were able to run off 30 more seconds before they had to snap the football. So they actually got, basically a free down there. So now it's not that it was easy beforehand, but now it's going to be real difficult. Now the timeouts come into play. They got it first down at the Charger 25-yard line. It is only a 13-point game. So theoretically, if you can hold them to a field goal here, it's a 16-point game. Still only a 2-score game, but I'm guessing Houston's just going to be running the ball, right?
Yeah. It feels like a million-point game, Scott. This game feels over and done with as soon as we saw Derwin James, that interception didn't count, right? Like as soon as we saw that, and then Houston was able to get the field goal, and then we saw the defensive touchdown, and then the defensive touchdown on the missed or the extra point blocked. It's just like this game, right now for me, it's basically 50-12, right? Like 25-12. It seems like that big of a gap. I just don't see the Chargers getting back into it, even though the dogs are starting to bark in my house. Not a good sign for the Chargers. They're barking for the Houston Texans right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, and now if you the game of gambling obviously comes into play. That's what the show's all about, right? So if you think the Texans are going to win, okay, let's turn the page to the over/under. Over/under heading into this contest, 41.5. It started out around 43.5 and dropped. You're at 37 points now. A Texans touchdown here puts it over nothing. It would still be an under. So you need, if you have the over, right, because 37 plus 3 is 40, it'd still be an under. You need the Texans to get rid of this football. You need the Chargers to get the by the way, touchdown, which, you're going to have a chance at it just because they're not going to be able to run out the clock. I wouldn't think with 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. So it's probably going to be 28-12. And then it's up to the Chargers to get the by the way. FanDuel's offering you 40.5. No coincidence, because again, the field goal gets you at 40. So basically, do you think we're going to get a touchdown here? Unless the Texans can kind of rip one off here, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and they're looking to see if that reception was in bounds. I think they did give it to him. I'm seeing 1st and 10 on the TV, 2nd and 10 though on FanDuel. So. Not sure where we're at, Scott, right now on the Chargers 26.
Oh no, they're checking on Nixon's. He clearly is. All right, he touches out of bounds with his foot on the run, but he was way ahead of the yardstick. Yeah, first down. So I thought maybe we had a pass completion. That would have been nice. But at this point, I'd be shocked if they threw the football. Just let Chargers got 3 timeouts. Let them use their timeouts. Kick the field goal. Go up 16, and then you Chargers would need to score, get the 2-point conversion, onside kick, score, get the 2-point conversion, only to tie the game. If you can't hold on to a lead like that, you just really, it just wasn't meant to be. So, all right, 25-12, giving you 15.5. I will say that, that's actually not a bad play. You're down. Oh, no, you're down 13, right? The lead would go to 16. Okay, never mind. I was thinking a field goal, you'd still be a winner there, but that's not the case. So, you are the Charger fan, so I'll ask you the same question I asked Eitan earlier. Where do you reside with Justin Herbert?
I have faith in Justin Herbert. I think this is an off game. And yes, his last game in the postseason last year was an off game as well. But you look, young quarterback out here. I have faith in him going forward 100%, Scott. So just not the game today.
All right, we'll finish up this game and take a peek at the Pittsburgh game when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, folks, it was not a field goal. It was a touchdown. How about that? Texans on a Joe Mixon, 21-yard or so run. Would have been smart to probably fall down, but it doesn't matter. You go up 3 scores, you know, you're not going to do that. So touchdown, Houston Texans, 32-12. Game goes over. You had 44 with the extra point pending, right? So actually it was with the extra point. So 32-12. You're at 44. Game goes over. 19.5 is the number. 44.5 is your in-game line number. So no matter what number you got it at, even when it opened up at 43.5, how much great example of being on the side of the boys in Vegas. How many people bet the under outside of the followers of me who gave out the over with our podcast crew? Thank you very much. Cha-ching, cha-ching. We've had a nice little run. Gave out the Texans, gave out the over, gave out the Notre Dame winner, gave out everything else. But that said, you know, that line dropped all the way down to 41.5 or so, and it sneaks over. It didn't look good, obviously, but it does. And it's still not done. 3:42 left. I imagine you want to still play this game. Boy, they're giving you 44.5 at plus 130. Unless you think the Chargers are just going to lay down and die, I would think they would be good for an by-the-way touchdown. At plus 130 odds, I think that's a pretty good bet.
Lay down and die.
Yeah.
Like, Scott, lay down and die. Like, really? 32-12? Lay down and die. Don't come out on the field and put a touchdown up on the board and for us to go, well, they made that look easy. Like, seriously. Pride, I guess?
Yeah.
How much pride can you be playing for right now? Really?
And,
like,
you know,
this is disastrous.
Do they give you even, let me see, do they give you props on Herbert passing yards? Because that's where I would go, because you know he's going to be throwing the football, right? What is he at right now? Is it 240? Oh, yeah, really? Can you imagine? Oh, my goodness. He had, I mean, just to put it all into perspective, he had as many interceptions today as he's had all year. That is amazing. 3. Wow. So is that to 242? If he gets to 275, it's minus 132. If he gets to 300, oh, they just locked it. I was going to put in the 300. I think they go down the field and they score here. I do. I mean, if they can't get a touchdown now, then the team just quit then. And maybe they did. They're down 3 scores. Maybe they figure it's over.
I would quit. I would absolutely quit. Nice pass to a lad. It looks like he is very close to getting the first down. If he didn't get it, he's within inches of that first down. So
we hit that.
Scott,
prop.
I don't
He's
know
at 9 receptions.
Yeah. So if you bet him over, even if you took that 8 for the plus money there, and then another missed pass by Quinton Johnson. So it's an absolute mess. Right? Like, I didn't expect the Chargers to get to the playoffs, so I can't be that down on them, but everyone expected them to beat the Houston Texans. Vegas needed Houston so bad today. Vegas is extremely happy. I couldn't even imagine the people that probably opened up the Chargers, because everyone thought the Chargers were going to come in and just dominate. Now, I thought this would be a close game, Scott, but I never expected Houston to come out and blow the Chargers out of the water. Even with what we saw in the first half, I didn't expect Houston to blow the Chargers out of the water. This is unbelievable.
I must say, if you would have given me this score, and I liked Houston, but if you would have told me one team would be winning 32-12, I'd say, chances are better the Chargers, because they're hitting on all cylinders, and Houston's defense is not playing well. The offense really is not playing well. I would have said the other way around. I would have. So, and Justin Herbert, in the end, 14 completions only. I mean, his number was 21.5. I did like that. I must say, I thought he would get to 22. We got his over with the podcast crew, over 32.5 or over 33.5 pass. I think it's actually 31.5 passing attempts. So he's going to hit that, barring something crazy here. But all right, we'll keep this on the back burner there, and something crazy happens, we'll definitely let you know. But how about game number 2, Joe? Let me throw out some numbers. Pittsburgh, the line is down to
it's got another interception. I can't even. Sorry, I had to interrupt you there.
That's all right.
4 interceptions in this game. 4. Are you kidding me? More than all of the regular season? That was the 4th, right? Or no, 3.
4th. Yeah, no, 4. Right? Wow.
I'm speechless.
How do you, I mean, what are the odds? He throws it up for grabs. What were the odds? Just get that on the ground here, you dope. There you go. Don't fumble the ball. What, all the goofy bets that these websites give you, right? How about the odds of, will Justin Herbert throw more interceptions today than he has all season long? What kind of odds could you have gotten on that? And that's going to be the case for today. Wow. 5 interceptions. How many fumble? 1 fumble by Mixon. So we've had 6 turnovers today, if I'm counting right.
Okay, this is most by a Chargers quarterback since 1995, Scott. Most interceptions thrown by a Chargers quarterback in one game since 1995. I'm going to have to Google it. They just flashed it up on the TV. So
who was it?
95 was before my time of watching the Chargers.
It wasn't mine, sadly. I was going to say Stan Humphries. Yeah, there you go. Stan Humphries, I remember him. Yeah, he stunk.
Okay.
I've had 5 minutes of fame, though, for Humphries. So now you just basically take 3 knees, and that's that. And there you go. So 32-12, barring something crazy here, will be your final. Maybe. I mean, Chargers theoretically get the ball back with 30 seconds left. So let's go to the Pittsburgh game here, Joe. So FanDuel has it at, I think I saw it at 8.5, right? Yeah, dropped to 8.5. And the over-under is up to 44.5, which, man, that makes I could see Pittsburgh dropping from 9.5 to 8.5, but people are betting Pittsburgh and the over. Weather forecast, cold, under 30, 28, and gusts of wind 10 to 20 miles an hour. Not horrible, but certainly not ideal. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. I'll give you some trends, and we'll throw out some plays, some props, and straight plays as well. In-game live, Pro Football Game Day on the Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid, all but over of the show and the game, Houston Texans. They just got another first down, so your final 32-12 it'll be after one kneel down here. Texans win. Let me throw over some numbers here real quickly for those that play fantasy and they want to get an idea whether they won or lost or some of the plays that we were handing out. C.J. Stroud, 22 of 33 for 282 yards, so he did not hit that 300. I thought somewhere in the fourth quarter they would have to throw, but the defensive touchdown really put an end to that, unfortunately. Mixon, great day. 25 for 106 yards with the one touchdown. C.J. Stroud runs 6 for 42. Nico Collins, 7 receptions for 122 and a score. Mixon had the one reception that we told you to grab, 13 yards, so cha-ching on that one. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert finishes 14 of 32. 242 yards, so both guys hit their passing props as far as yards are concerned. One touchdown pass, 4 interceptions, one worse than the other. Dobbins, 9 carries for 26. Edwards, 7 carries for 22. Their running game was invisible, 50 yards. McConkey, great on the ground, 9 for $197, including one touchdown, including an 86-yarder. And nobody else had more than 2. Disley had 2. And Fisk, Chark, and Darius Davis had 1 apiece. Boy, they need to help their offense clearly on the outside. So 32-12, that is your final. Joe and I talking Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. I'll throw some trends for you here, Joe, with Pittsburgh. I'll give you good news, bad news, right? Good news for Pittsburgh. Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, Russell Wilson. 36-16-2 against the spread as an underdog in the postseason, including 14-4 since 2018. This series, underdog, 16-3-1 against the spread since 2015, including 1-1 this year. Tomlin as an underdog, 64-38-4, unbelievable. Underdogs of 4 or more in this series. 8-1 against the spread. So it all points to Pittsburgh, right? Bet Pittsburgh. Well, not so fast. Let's go to Baltimore side of things. Baltimore as a favorite, straight up 22-4, 19-7 against the spread as a favorite. This is kind of a negative stat. We told you the great underdog trends for Tomlin. But as an underdog of 7 points or more, which is what they are today, only 3-14 straight up, 9-7-1 against the spread, including 1-8 straight up as an 8-point dog. So trends say they don't win. And lastly, teams that score 17 points or less in their last 4 games heading into the postseason, but it happened 3 times. This is the 4th time. Previous 3 teams all lost in the wild card round, all scored 17 points or less again. So pick your poison. I think Baltimore does win. Wouldn't shock me. I'm not going to call for a Steeler upset win, but I think Pittsburgh covers the spread.
Okay, you're going to go with Pittsburgh to cover the spread. I'm going to believe in the Baltimore Ravens to come out here and cover the spread. I'm going to look for that defensive touchdown to come out of the Baltimore Ravens. I just don't trust Russ when he gets in that red zone, and I do think he throws a costly interception here. Looking at who I think would get that interception, you can look at Washington for the Baltimore Ravens for the interception. He's coming in at plus 650, but when we look at some sack plays out there, I do think TJ Watt at some points gets to Lamar. So TJ Watt for the anytime sack coming in at plus 100 is where I'll go with the Steelers. I think the passing prop here for the Steelers, I think Russ can still go over it. I think he gets some nice deep passes out there, but again, I just don't trust him when it comes to the red zone. Scott, do you have any touchdown scorers here? Because I was looking at Derrick Henry. He's too juicy. Mark Andrews at plus 135. He is a good target for Lamar on those short passes. And then Najee Harris here for the Steelers I'd look at. What about yourself?
I'm going to give you maybe the best play on the board tonight in the game, Joe. Yeah. Over 5.5. I'm going to go against, I think it was Andrew. I'm going to go against Andrew here. I love the over 5.5 receiving yards, Derrick Henry. He's hit this number, a good portion of the time. I think without Zay Flowers, they're going to be looking to throw the football to different people. And I think because he ran for 146 yards, Pittsburgh's going to be stuffing the box. They're going to need to get him the ball some way, somehow. And how do you do that? You throw the ball out of the backfield like they do, fairly, 1 or 2 receptions, every game. I love the over 5.5. Only going to play 1? That would be a joke.
Okay. That's
there you go. Everyone. Good luck, everyone. We'll be back going out tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern time. Enjoy your bet.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans, bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you gotta love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
You basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today. only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in, everyone. This is in-game live pro football game day on SportsGrid. Fresh off the Texans embarrassing the Chargers and simultaneously taking every last dollar in my wallet. 32-12, this game in Houston. I am Adam Kaufman. Brady Cannon. I assure you, Brady, this is no laughing matter. Tommy Lorenzo is going to join us in a matter of moments. I am just, if you watch this game, as I'm sure a lot of people out there who are watching or listening to us did, I could get into trouble for saying this, so I won't say this the way I want to say it. I'll say it in the safer way. I know better than to accuse Justin Herbert of point shaving. However, if you were to watch this game, I cannot fathom, Brady, the degree to which they were telegraphing throws, they were making mistakes that just seemed way too easy. The holes that the defensive players were getting to sack Herbert has never. I'm not a Chargers fan. I have not seen every LA Chargers game. I most certainly have not seen every game of Justin Herbert's career. But I would believe you if you told me that he has never in his entire life, be it pro, college, high school, or freaking peewee, played a worse game than he did today in the first round playoff game, wild card round loss to C.J. Stroud and the regressing Houston Texans, who decide to show up for the first time all season.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it, Adam, quite honestly, and I am a big fan of Justin Herbert. I've been somewhat of a fan of the Chargers for a while, ever since I went to college in San Diego, and really fell in love. I used to love this team going back to the days of Dan Fouts. They've always been exciting. And then Phillip Rivers, and I love Justin Herbert, maybe my favorite quarterback in the NFL. But I would have to agree. And I do watch a lot of Charger games, and I catch a lot of them out here on the West Coast. And I'm not sure I've seen him play worse either. I do want to give credit to the Texans defense. Both of these teams have really good defensive units. I think the Texans were the better unit, and they certainly showed that today. And it was interesting. The game started out with the Chargers looking like they were going to dominate this game, but credit to the Texans defense to holding them to just field goals. And then everything, it was a very weird game. I mean, you had a blocked extra point returned, for a 2-point conversion by the Texans. And it all started, the weirdness began when it looked like the Chargers were going to put a stranglehold on this game when the ball was snapped over C.J. Stroud's head deep in their own territory. He scrambles to recover it, rolls out to his right, throws across his body, and completes it 35 yards down the field for a first down, sets up what would eventually become a touchdown before the end of the half, and then they add a field goal. And boy, it was all downhill from there for the Los Angeles Chargers. That was an incredible play that just seemed to turn the entire game around. But, the wise guys got it right. It hasn't been a great year for the Sharps. We know that the public has been dominating in the NFL this year. They were firmly on the Texans getting 3 points today. And we saw that line come down to 2.5. There were still some threes that you could have grabbed even at kick. But the wise guys got this one right, taking the 3. And now home dogs in their first playoff game of the postseason moved to 25-10-1 against the spread.
Just a remarkable no-show out of the Chargers offense today if your name is not Ladd McConkey, who obviously went crazy. 9 for 197 in that 86-yard touchdown. The 197 of Herbert's 242 total passing yards, and he threw for 4 interceptions. I mean, truly handed this game over to the Houston Texans. And I don't want to not give credit to that defense, as you alluded to. Houston's defense was excellent, but the Chargers, man, I thought they were better than this. I really did. I thought they got all the chargering out of their system, in this first year under Harbaugh, and it was disgusting. So LA season is over. Houston, this fraudulent AFC South winning team, advances only to get ready to lose in the next round And but we'll talk. We're here for 4 hours. We're gonna talk plenty about this game. Look ahead to tomorrow, the 3 games, one on Monday night as well. We have to, or really should, at least acknowledge this game that is getting ready to kick off here, which is the Steelers at the Ravens, a contest that a lot of people coming into this one comfortably backing the 8.5, 9 points that Baltimore is laying at home, off of a blowout of Pittsburgh when they faced off in Week 16. Now, that being said, there has been money coming in late on Pittsburgh that has pushed this from what was a double-digit spread down to, again, that 8.5, 9 points. So how do you look at this contest? How do you handicap it? How have you invested, if you have?
Well, yes, this was teaser season for me here when we get to the postseason, Adam. I think these lines are so tight when you get to this time of the year. The odds makers have had so much time to whittle their power ratings down that these lines are pretty sharp at this stage in the game. And I think when you're taking a very sharp line and tweaking it by 6, 7, 8, 10 points, it's a real advantage. Now, obviously, it did not work if you were teasing the Chargers today, but I think the Baltimore Ravens will win this game, and I have teased them down to plus a half point. I did that when they were 9.5 point favorites. You're right. It's come down to 8.5 at FanDuel. Still a lot of 9s and even 9.5s, I believe, existing in the market. Certainly no 10s around, which it was earlier in the week. And a lot of sharp players took the 10 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And obviously more are piling on here, which, 8.5 is obviously a pretty key number. There's a difference certainly between 10 and 9, but not a whole lot of difference between 9.5, 9, and 8.5. Once you get 8 or less, you're starting to get into a different territory as far as the key numbers are concerned. When I crunch all the stats, personally, I came out with Baltimore 7.5. So maybe according to my numbers, even 8.5 or so is still good. It's just really hard for me to get in front of Baltimore right now. And like I said, I believe that they win the game. It's also interesting to note, Adam, now you know this, in the regular season, the team that wins the game covers the spread over 80% of the time, meaning underdogs, when they cover, they tend to win outright. And when favorites win, they tend to cover. So the point spread, when we get into the wild card round, it matters even less. 88% of the time, the team that covers the spread wins the game. So if you think Baltimore is going to win, then you probably think they're going to cover if history holds true here. But the familiarity, the rivalry, as bad as Pittsburgh's looked, you got to believe that 10, 9.5 is a lot of points to give this team a division matchup, per se. So, again, I wanted to basically take the points out of it and just say I think Baltimore is going to win the game, and that's what I did with a 10-point teaser.
Tommy Lorenzo is here with us from the Cover the Weekend Sports Betting Podcast. We are going to break here coming up in just a moment, but I do want to bring in Tommy. Tommy, hey, how are you? Happy, welcome. Obviously, we're going to get to some college talk with you as well. Before we do break, we'll have plenty more time with you on the other side. How do you handicap this game?
Game going off right now, Steelers-Ravens. Great rivalry, but I'm with Brady. I think the teaser is the way to go here and getting Baltimore down to a more comfortable number. Two teams going in opposite directions. Again, what Brady said was spot on, in my opinion, where these lines get really tight. And, getting the Ravens down to under 3, if you can find it, there's some 8.5s out there, I think is definitely the way to go here on the teaser. And again, what Brady said, when you're looking at these games, not only this week, but coming up, the teaser is something I think people should look at very closely.
All right, we'll explore all of that, tell you the other sides of those teasers, look into the prop market. This game is getting ready to kick off. We have just kicked off in-game live pro football game day on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Steelers-Ravens underway, so are we. It's in-game live pro football game day on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman, Brady Cannon, Tommy Lorenzo is here with us, host the Cover the Weekend Sports Betting Podcast. Get him on Twitter, @SportsbookTom. So, guys, we were just talking about the approach to this game, teasers. I know you both really like involving the Ravens, in teasers. Fact of the matter is, obviously, now that the game is underway, you know, we can kind of abandon that conversation because there's nothing people can do about it. But as far as just, you know, how to, you know, look at this game in game now that, again, we are underway. And the Steelers have the ball first, not doing anything just yet. Minute and a half in, obviously, it's very early. Tommy, well, how did you feel about the total going into this one? A lot of people I know were really kind of riding the under, bet down the total quite a bit, in large part because historically it's what these teams do. You know, we saw the 51-point output between these two teams when they matched up in Week 16, but the prior 8 games to that all went under, all failed to reach 40 points. In fact, 5 of them didn't even get to 30 points. So typically these teams play low-scoring games. We saw it earlier this year, saw an 18-16 game. Mike Tomlin, to his credit, you know, he handles Lamar Jackson pretty well, even if, you know, all three of us believe that Baltimore does win this game. So how did you feel about the total, which, by the way, coming in, just so everybody is aware, was sitting, let's see, it went from 46.5 bet down to 44.5, 45.
Yeah, the only thing I would look in this game is going over, but looking at the end game. I really want to see what the Ravens do offensively, because to me, if if Lamar Jackson gets confidence and they're moving the ball initially, I think that's a good sign that that's going to be the case for the rest of the game. Now, if the Steelers come out, punch them in the face, and things get out of whack a little bit, even on their first drive, then I'd probably back off of that. But if you see the Ravens moving the ball pretty well against a Steelers defense that has been regressing, I think I would lean to the over. You just got to monitor what the end game is when you see that.
I think the Baltimore Ravens are so familiar with this team, and obviously Pittsburgh incredibly familiar with Baltimore as well. And I think that gives a strong case to build, you know, why taking 10.5 points is a good move here, because these teams know each other so well. But you're right, Tommy. You said it in the segment prior that these teams are going in opposite directions. And I think Baltimore is so much better than Pittsburgh right now. And the odds on this game, or the spread in this game, would tell you that the odds makers feel the same way. I mean, it started out at 10, it closed it at 8.5, and really only at FanDuel. Let's call the closing number probably more like 9. I think Baltimore has to have a complete crash and burn not to win this game. Not necessarily cover, but to win this game, I think it would have to be 4 or 5 turnovers by Jackson. It'd have to be a Justin Herbert-like performance, and I don't see it happening to the other Harbaugh.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see that happening, although, we've seen good game plans contain Lamar Jackson a little bit. But just right now with the personnel and then just the scheme that Steelers have had over the last few weeks, I'm not sure if there's enough there for that to happen. Maybe later on in the playoffs, but this may not be the game.
Since 2007, Mike Tomlin's Steelers 38-14-2 against the spread as underdogs in divisional games, specifically against the Ravens 13-3-2. So yeah, as Brady has acknowledged, as you've both acknowledged, it wouldn't shock people, I don't think, if Baltimore wins the game but doesn't cover. Again, it's a big spread. We're not talking about 3.5 or something like that. I mean, 8.5, 9.5, 10, wherever you got the number. That's a big number for sure. The thing though that you say it might take a Herbert-esque game and 4 interceptions, whatever it may be, to lose this game or to have a poor performance out there for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Honestly, the thing that I don't worry about this, but the thing that I would worry about, if anything, is that they just abandon their game plan, abandon what has made them so successful that got them here. We saw it last year in the playoffs against the Chiefs. We saw it the year prior in their playoff exit. We've seen it multiple times in the Harbaugh-Jackson regime at this point over the years, to where no matter how, this is why everyone always says Lamar, let's see it in January. No matter how good he is in the regular season, no matter how many MVPs that he wins, maybe he wins another one this year, although personally I am invested in Josh Allen, so I hope that doesn't happen, but the way everything is freaking going, it likely will. I just don't see Lamar Jackson going into this game that a lot of people are looking at as a prove-it game, almost a legacy game, in the opening round against his biggest rival, and just them psyching themselves out to where, oh boy, we better not run all that much with Lamar. We got to turn him into a passer. Don't let Derrick Henry run all that much, because we gotta make sure we're getting the big plays. You don't have Zay Flowers out there. You have Mark Andrews, you have Rashad Bateman, and you have your biggest weapon not named Lamar Jackson in Derrick Henry, who rushed for nearly 2,000 yards this year. If Harbaugh goes out and they do something stupid, that to me is the only way they lose this game. It is not because of the Steelers, like you could say it was because the Texans, beat the Chargers. This would be self-inflicted as I see it, Tommy.
Yeah, I agree. And if the Steelers have any chance here to win or cover, their defense is just going to have to explode and again, disrupt Lamar Jackson and contain the run. And again, Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh, it has happened before, so it wouldn't be unprecedented. Although, the Ravens are playing much better. They're the more talented team. But whenever you have a defense that gets inspired, it can play hard, all bets can be off sometimes.
Tommy, the in-game total has dropped to 40.5. The Baltimore Ravens on their own 9-yard line. Pittsburgh was forced to punt on their first offensive possession and pin Baltimore back on their own 5-yard line. Baltimore now facing 2nd and 11. They've been pinned back. Second, it looks like maybe a false start penalty there. 2nd and 11 on their own 4-yard line. Still 8.5 for the live spread, but the total's dropped to 40.5. I believe you mentioned earlier you kind of lean towards the over, obviously get an even better number now.
You do get a better number. Now, if you took the under pregame or pre-flop, you're in good shape here. But I think this is what you monitor. This is what you look at to see what that Steelers defense is going to do early. And right now, not a play for me, even at 40. Don't think I'm going to do a thing here. I'm just going to sit and watch and see what happens here. Steelers defense may have shown up today.
We'll find out. Long way to go. Long way here as well. We'll be back. In-game live pro football game day on SportsGrid.
The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wildcard showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back here, Adam Brady. We also have Tommy Lorenzo here with us. So Ravens are driving right now. They're still in their own territory, but they have picked up a couple of first downs against the Steelers in what is a scoreless game early. Usually we don't look toward in-game player props until around halftime, get a sense of feel for the flow of the game, all of that. But there is one, Tommy, that I want to bring up with you, which is George Pickens, whose live number is just 47.5. Now remember, this is someone that came off of a goose egg last time out, had one catch for either no yards or -1 yard. It was, no production whatsoever. Did have 3-4 drops in that regular season finale. He was atrocious. By far the worst game he has played all season long. Some diva behavior out there as well. Not great, obviously. I think a lot of people look toward this game and say, one, Russ is going to have to be throwing the ball because we just anticipate a deficit. But on top of that, if you're going to try and beat the Ravens in that secondary, you're looking toward deep ball threats. Clearly, that's George Pickens within this offense. It's not, go over the middle, pick up a few yards here and there to someone like Freiermuth. That you're looking toward your playmaker, obviously, in Pickens. Do you think that he responds to the criticism that he has received, the questions over the last week, and again, that just awful performance in Week 18? Or do the Ravens find a way to keep him in check today?
In my sports betting career, I've always seen more often than not very good receivers that have bad games bounce back and have good games. So I would expect him to be involved in this game. Obviously, it's going to depend on how this game, the flow of this game. If it's a tight defensive battle, I don't know if Russell Wilson, is going to take his shots downfield with Pickens. But I would lean towards saying that Pickens bounces back and has a better game. Whether he clears his prop numbers, that's yet to be seen. Right now, this game seems to be kind of a grinder. Some runs, defense is showing up right now, so we'll see. But I would lean that Pickens will get his numbers.
Tommy, I know we've only got you for a few more minutes, and of course, college football is certainly one of your areas of expertise, and we've got the national championship coming up in 9 days from now, January 20th. Your initial thoughts, Ohio State as a 9.5-point favorite against Notre Dame, a total of 45.5.
Yeah, the number really hasn't surprised me much. I thought it'd be around 8 or 9. It landed it's kind of settled in at 9.5 now. As a Notre Dame fan, I am ecstatic that they are in the championship. But I do think Ohio State is going to win. I just think this line might be a click too high. Will Howard has done pretty well, but I still think there are some questions with him. If he faces a defense that the likes of Notre Dame that could disrupt him some. He's been okay during these playoffs, doing what he's supposed to do. Of course, that Ohio State defense is such that, I don't know if Riley Leonard's going to be able to do enough to get Notre Dame moving. Notre Dame has had some luck, of course, big defensive plays, some special team stuff. So we'll see. Right now, though, at 9.5, I'd probably lean on taking Notre Dame to cover the spread, but I do think Ohio State wins this. So if anyone has Ohio State futures, I think they're in good shape.
Anything that you'd be looking for over the next 9 days, as Brady noted, to other than obviously random injuries that pop up, but anything that could alter your thinking from where it is right now?
Not really, unless there's some type. Riley Leonard did take a knock, and looks like he's going to be okay. He came back in the game and did just fine. So maybe that's something to monitor. But it seems like both teams came out of those games, pretty well. I just think it boils down to these defenses. And right now, Ohio State's defense is just playing at such an elite level. And I just don't see Notre Dame's offense being dynamic enough to pull away or to stay too close. I just think Notre Dame's defense will do enough to keep them in the game, but at the end, not cover.
Yeah, this is basically the number 1 and number 2 defense in the country, I believe, at this point in the game. And I wonder if that leans you to liking the under the total in this game, Tommy. 45.5, the current number. I would think it's going to come down.
Yeah, if you're going to bet the under, I'd say get on it now. And I think 45.5 is a very good number if you're going to go under the total. I do think this number will come down. I think a lot of the focus has been on that point spread and all the Ohio State money coming in. But I think eventually when that value is gone or when that number settles in, I think people will start attacking the total here. And at 45.5, anywhere in that range, I think under is definitely the play. I just don't think the two quarterbacks are dynamic enough to deal with these two type of defenses.
Well, fellas, Ravens wasted no time. Big run out of Derrick Henry, 34 yards to get him to almost 50 already. And Lamar Jackson finishes the drive with a touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman, who, again, that featured wide out with no Zay Flowers today. Baltimore ahead 7-0, 4:45 to go opening quarter. That's what happens when you actually make an extra point. Don't allow the team to go for 2 the other way. Tommy Lorenzo, thanks, bud.
The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wildcard showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back with Brady Cannon. Our thanks once again to Tommy Lorenzo. A lot of great insights on this football game tonight. Some early thoughts on the college football national championship, Ohio State, Notre Dame. We'll talk more about that in about a half hour. Colby Dant will join us from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. But this is In-Game Live, Pro Football Game Day. That means in-game, live. We're taking live looks at games in-game, like this playoff game between the Ravens and the Steelers. And, of course, pro football. So NFL, it's going to be a large part of the conversation here tonight, looking ahead to those 3 games tomorrow and one on Monday, assuming we have time as well, and I imagine we will. Brady, I mentioned it, 7-0 Baltimore is in front now. Touchdown on the first possession there for the Ravens after forcing a punt out of the Steelers. I want to say, like, is this it, right? Like, is this a route? Is this what's going to happen? Is this what we're looking at? And sometimes the public gets it right. I know a lot of people in the public wanted to get invested in the Ravens minus 8.5 up to 10, depending on where you got the line, obviously. But by the same token, football's football. Games are unpredictable, and I'm not even talking about injury. I just mean poor performance. There were a lot of people, me included, probably you, who sat there watching that first game earlier today, saw the Chargers, failing to score a couple of times early, still, settling for field goals, up 6-0 after one quarter against the Texans. Texans looking, generally, I don't want to say totally lifeless, but, outside of Nico Collins, there was just nothing they were able to generate. Definitely nothing on the ground out of Joe Mixon, who really blew up late, but there was nothing that he was doing early on in that contest. It was 6-0 LA. It was like, okay, it looks like the Chargers are going to control this one. And then, for any number of different reasons, some of which we've explored, Texans answer back in a big way and end up winning that game by 20 points. So as we look at the heavy favorite, and the Chargers were not, they were favorites, but not heavy favorites. As we look at the heavily favored Baltimore Ravens, up 7-0 and poised to, probably get the ball back here pretty soon again, do you feel like this first 8 minutes is a sign of things to come? Or more than that, 10 minutes?
Yeah. If they go up 14 here, and now Pittsburgh's facing 3rd and 7 on their own 33-yard line, so they could very well be punting the ball back to Baltimore here pretty quickly. Even 10-0, 14-0, whatever. If that's the case, this could be a little bit of a runaway train. And I think it's different from the last game, Adam, where the Chargers and the Texans aren't necessarily, both of those teams, neither of which are really known to be offensive powerhouses, okay? Certainly not like the Baltimore Ravens. We know the Ravens now, even though they don't have Zay Flowers, he wasn't necessarily a touchdown scorer. He was a move the chains type guy between the 20s, often good for a big play, but a red zone guy, he wasn't especially. That was more Henry and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, those guys, what have you. But, he'll certainly affect the game plan overall, but I don't think he's going to take away from this team being in the offensive juggernaut that they are, that we've seen for most of the season. And certainly we've seen as of late down the stretch. And I think the offense for Baltimore has been improved down the stretch because their defense has improved. The point being here is the offense on the other side for Pittsburgh has been anemic. And I know they've played some very tough competition over the course of this 4-game losing streak, but I don't think they can afford to get in a shootout with this Baltimore team at all. That is not going to be the way Pittsburgh wants to put together this game plan. They need to speed this game up, shorten the game, make it a defensive, rushing attack type battle, take the air out of the ball, all the cliches you want to use. That's the way Pittsburgh wants to play. So again, if now Baltimore has the ball back, 1st and 10 at their own 15, Pittsburgh did have to punt. If they go on another drive here, and even with a field goal, if they end up getting a touchdown, either way, that could be the beginning of the end Pittsburgh does not want to get into that type of game with the Baltimore Ravens. They really need to keep them off the scoreboard here, or it could get out of hand.
Yeah, to your point, the Steelers, they started off the year 10-3. 10-3. Looked like they were going to win that division and then just fell apart. 4 straight losses to close the year, and it was the offense, as you highlighted, that really disappeared. Did not exceed 17 points in any of those games during that skid entering this game, averaged 2 touchdowns at 14.3 points. Have also, and this is probably not talked about enough, entered the playoffs having lost each of their last 3 playoff games by double digits, by 10-plus points. And so, there is a sense of no-show when the Steelers get to this point of late. The thing that surprises me a little bit out of what we're seeing in this offense so far, and again, 7-0 Baltimore, as you said, with a couple minutes to go in the opening quarter, it hasn't been, like 3 and out. I mean, they're picking up some yards, but while acknowledging it's early, I talked about George Pickens and the recent struggles and inconsistency and, just disposition on the field and all of these things, Brady. The fact that he doesn't even have a target yet surprises me a little bit. That we're not seeing some level of, whether it's appease him, get him involved early, force feed him, set the tone, call it however you want. The fact that I'm shouting out Darnell Washington, Jalen Warren as both a rusher and receiver, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Williams has a target, doesn't have a catch, George Pickens nowhere to be found thus far. That surprises me a little bit here, but just in terms of game planning and the early script out of the Steelers.
Well, I tell you what, a couple of prop bets, I didn't play these, but a couple of prop bets I liked coming into this game were Van Jefferson for the Steelers, over 8.5 yards receiving. And then on the Ravens side, Isaiah Likely for an anytime touchdown at plus 260. But I went to Jefferson because you got to believe, we're just talking about the lack of offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers have displayed, certainly in the last 4 weeks, and really more than that. They're the Steelers. They've never necessarily been an offensive juggernaut, maybe sometimes with Big Ben at the controls, but they have not really been ever since he retired, and certainly have not been this season. So if the Ravens are smart, and they are, they're going to clamp down on George Pickens, and basically the offense is gone for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? It becomes Najee Harris and Jalen Warren and Freiermuth, and you let the rest of the guys do their business with that and see if he can handle it. So it wouldn't be surprising, and I totally agree with Tommy, that Pickens should bounce back, but it's going to be tough. Mm-hmm. He might be double-teamed, he's going to have a safety over the top, whatever it is. I know the Ravens are paying attention to him, because if you let him go off, then that propels the Steelers. That gives them a heartbeat on offense. So it's not surprising to me. Maybe he just hasn't been open, and they haven't been able to get him the ball. But Van Jefferson, you talk about those in-game props. He'd be a guy to take a look at. Very good receiver. Had success with the Rams, out of the University of Florida. He was very good. He'd be a guy that I think might show up, and at least maybe you can cash a prop bet with him.
41.5 is the live total at this moment. Again, it's ticked down a few points from where it was pregame. No big surprise that we're in the same general vicinity right now. The Ravens have the ball. They've taken it to midfield, 1st and 10. Right at basically the 50. Any thoughts on the line, or would you wait on the total a little bit to see, for one, what happens in this drive, obviously, but just is there a number that screams to you, either it gets to this point, I want to go over, or it, we get a quick score here, maybe it jumps back to 45.5 and you want to go under?
Yeah, 41.5 is a tough number, because 41, 42, 43 are all pretty key numbers. So if I was going to play over, I'd rather much see a 40.5. Maybe if this drive stalls a little bit and Justin Tucker's forced to kick a field goal here, maybe it does drop to 40.5. I tend to lean towards the over here, where this game is headed right now. I think Baltimore, the way it's looking, is they're going to be able to put up a lot of points tonight, but the number has me backing off at the moment.
Does feel that way. And, we'll see. 3rd and 11 at the Pittsburgh 50. So the Steelers defense maybe, just maybe, will show up on this drive. We'll let you know. It's the end of the first quarter, and it's about time for us to break as well. So it all times out pretty well for us. Again, there are games tomorrow. Broncos, Bills, Packers, Eagles, Commanders, Buccaneers, and the game, honestly, that I'm most looking forward to in all of Wild Card Weekend, that is the Vikings-Rams Monday night. More on all of it when we come.
The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wild card showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Second quarter just getting underway between the Ravens and Steelers. Again, Baltimore is up 7-0 and looking to really take advantage here. Foot in your throat kind of moment against these Steelers early. The early touchdown after a good run out of Derrick Henry. Rashad Bateman scored it. And now the Ravens, Brady, you were calling out during our break. If they get to fourth and something reasonable, it's sitting 4th and 6 at the Pittsburgh 45. You think they go for it. Well, we're about to find out here. Is that still what you envision will happen?
I think so. Justin Tucker's not going to try a field goal from that distance, I don't imagine. No. Maybe a few years ago he would have, but, he's declined a little bit in the last couple of years, being able to boot him from as far as he could back in the day. So, yeah, I think it's a go-for-it situation here. I think they're firmly in control of the game so far. Yes, it's still early, but 4th and 6 is not insurmountable. I wouldn't be surprised by a punt because Harbaugh's very confident in his defense, and we know Pittsburgh doesn't offer a whole lot offensively, and maybe you kind of give them, you throw them a bone if you're not able to convert. But, I think, and what is it? Okay, so they did punt. And
they punted.
Not a great net gain there, only a net gain of 26 yards. Pittsburgh gets the ball on their own 20-yard line, which, again, I'm not expecting Pittsburgh to necessarily go down the other way and score here. But that doesn't do a whole lot for you either, pushing it back 26 yards. Maybe they should have gone for it. We'll see. But the total is now under 40, Adam, 39.5. And I'd play the over. I think Pittsburgh's going to get on the board eventually, and it might be late. It could be a backdoor type of situation, garbage time situation. But I think there's a very good chance that Baltimore can get to 27 to 30 points in this ballgame.
Let's, while we're keeping an eye on this one, obviously, let's start our process of looking ahead to these games that are happening throughout Wild Card Weekend here. We have the Bills playing host to the Broncos tomorrow in a game that I think a lot of people, obviously, it's not a division rivalry like what you get, between the Ravens and Steelers, but I think a lot of people look at that game first thing tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, in a similar way. Like, Buffalo's going to win. How do the Bills not cover the massive number? It's 8.5, 9-point spread is what we're looking at. Opened at 8.5 and settled at 8.5, 9. Rogue 9 out there I see on MGM if you want to back Denver. And, I wouldn't totally blame you for doing so. It's not what I would do. I mean, there are no weather concerns in Buffalo. Not that I would think the Broncos would be alarmed by that anyway, coming from Mile High, obviously. But there are a lot of interesting sort of facets to this game as it relates, to the Bills offense. For one, they're 8-0 at home and have just been utterly dominant at home. Bills, matter of fact, are averaging about 35 points per game at home, 7-1 to the over their team total at home this year. Again, that's 34.3 points per game. They are, Broncos defense, if you're looking for support, because I think the Broncos have this reputation of having a, almost a Steelers-like defense, and we've seen that at points this year, but Broncos have allowed 30-plus points down the stretch here. To the Bengals, that's no slight. The Chargers, I mean, considering what we had today, that feels like a slight. The Browns, back with Jameis Winston, of course. The Bills have 30-plus points in 3 straight wild card round games. Team total coming into this one, last check, 28.5. Do you expect, much as you think that Baltimore scores a bunch of points tonight, do you expect that, win or lose, and I know you do expect the Buffalo win, that we see the Bills sort of pile on at home against the Broncos?
I think they could score a lot here, and it might be some garbage time, pick six, special teams, turnover type stuff. I would actually probably lay the 8.5, and especially if you can get an 8. I wouldn't necessarily lay the 8.5. I think you might be able to find an 8 out there. If you wait, you got to be patient with this one. And like Tommy Lorenzo talked about earlier, you're at a great teaser number with 8.5 now. 9.5, where it was, not a great number. 8.5 is a terrific number because a 6-point teaser puts you under a field goal, gets you down to 2.5. So it's in prime position for a teaser, which I really like, but I'd tend to lay the points with the favorite here before I took it with the dog, Adam. Now, the numbers, for all you stat guys out there, if you just crunch the numbers on the Denver Broncos, they're going to look like a world beater of a team. But let's look at who they've lost to or who they've beaten this year. Okay, they beat the Buccaneers. Sounds like a big win, right? Well, if you recall, that was the week after Tampa Bay had just beaten Detroit on the road. They returned home in a huge letdown spot, and the Broncos happened to be the beneficiary of taking them on in that spot, and they crushed them. Then they beat the Jets. They beat the Raiders, the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Raiders again, the Browns, the Colts, and the Chiefs in Week 18 when they rolled out their JV team. They've lost to the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Chargers. And early in the year to open the season, they also lost to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks aren't a bad club either. So the point is, when they have played good teams, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Ravens, they've kind of been blown out. They haven't done very well. So they've padded their numbers. Their stats look really good because they've beaten up on a very weak schedule. Now, all that being said, I do believe their defense is legit. They rush the passer very well. Patrick Surtain, we know, a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Their defense is very good. But they don't have very much of a running game, and the strength of the Buffalo defense is their secondary, defending the pass. Bo Nix is not going to, in my opinion, have great success throwing the ball all over the yard, and he doesn't have a whole lot of rushing attack to really get at this Buffalo weakness. So I think it could be a long day for the Denver Broncos, and I think Buffalo's going to slowly but surely get a stranglehold on this game, and I could see them winning by double digits.
The Broncos, an NFL best 12-5 against the spread during the regular season. But, and Brady was talking about the schedule, it is worth noting 1-7 straight up, 3-5 ATS against teams that finished 500 or better. That excludes, obviously, that lopsided 38-0 win over the JV Chiefs. So, worthy of note that, covering versus covering against good teams, these are not totally the, one and the same. Also, there are some interesting trends as it relates to both quarterbacks in this one that I want to explore, see if the sample size is large enough to influence Brady or you, the listener or viewer, one way or the other. We'll be back.
The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wildcard showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
In-game live pro football game day. Baltimore back with the ball, up 7-0 at home against the Steelers. This is, of course, the wild card weekend round here. We've got games coming up, 3 tomorrow, 1 Monday, 1 already in the books. The Houston Texans have moved on, an emphatic win at home against the LA Chargers. The Ravens lead 7-0 right now. Derrick Henry just being Derrick Henry, already 7 for 64. Lamar Jackson, we talked about this earlier. Don't abandon who you are. Don't change the game plan. Go with what got you here. Lamar, 8 for 32 rushing to go with 7 of 8 for 62 passing. That touchdown to Rashad Bateman. I respect, I appreciate, Brady, that no matter what the Steelers are doing on the other side, the Ravens are not going to allow Lamar to be turned into a passer. He will pass at the rate that he typically passes. He will do so efficiently and effectively, but he is not going to be the guy that just sits and lives and is statuesque in the pocket.
Yeah, you talked about it to open the show. It was inexplicable, the game plan that they put together against the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the AFC Championship game. I was as confident about that bet as maybe I was in any of the postseason last year with the Ravens. I think they were laying about 5 points to Kansas City at home in Baltimore. They had the best rushing attack in football, and this is without Derrick Henry last year, by the way. And I think they ran the ball a total of 6 times or something in that game. It was just absolutely weird what they did not do and what they did do in that eventual loss to the Kansas City Chiefs last year. But it looks like they have learned from their mistakes and are turning the page here this year, as Henry's certainly been a focal point in the offense, as he should. 2nd and 12 now from their own 36-yard line. And, oh, by the way, that total is now 34.5, Adam. Now, it just came off the board here, but Anything
Still
under
going over?
40, I am. I mean, what you're betting on, I think at this point is Pittsburgh going to get shut out, or are they going to be able to put 13 points on the board? I think if Pittsburgh can put 13 points on the board, you're going over anything that's under 40 here.
Well, and 34.5 at plus money as well before it locked up. It was over at plus 104. So we'll see. Now I'm seeing minus 113 at that same number, 34.5. So like you said, obviously with Baltimore sitting second and 12 still at the pit. Well, now, all right, just picked up a first down. That's why we got some movement there in terms of the juice, not the line specifically. The Ravens are now into Pittsburgh territory, sitting around the 40.
Well, and that line has been sitting at 13.5 for a while too.
Yeah.
If you made me bet the side, I think at this point I'd have to take Pittsburgh. That's more than a field goal adjustment. I mean, the opening number was 10, right? That's 3.5 points larger than that. And I think we learned when we saw the Ohio State Texas. Or I'm trying to remember which game was it. Was it the Notre Dame? I think it was the Notre Dame Penn State game, okay, the other night, earlier this week. The total had been bet down like crazy, and it was a lesson in trusting the opening number. The opening number, I want to say, was 50, and it had been bet down to 46, 45, something like that. What did it land on? 51. So the odds makers were extremely close with their original number. The original number here, as far as the point spread, was Baltimore around 10. Now you've tweaked that to the other side of a field goal, 3.5 points more. So 13.5 feels, if you really want to get down on the Steelers, I'd take the 13.5. But the total looks more attractive to me. I think anything under 40 is a decent play, playing the over here in game.
Lamar, not Derrick Henry. I mean, Henry is the leading rusher in terms of yards because obviously he had that 34-yarder. But in terms of opportunity, it's Lamar Jackson. 10 for 55, including a 20-yard run. So, wherever you bet his prop, he's already cleared it. If you alted him up, you're looking in real good shape. Again, there's still 5.5 minutes, Brady, to go in the opening half in this game. Lamar Jackson now 11 for 64. He hasn't stopped. I mean, obviously, he's just seeing opportunities and holes, and the Steelers not being able to stop him. Why not take advantage? 2nd and 7, down to the Pittsburgh 25 now. We could be looking at, I don't know Lamar's necessarily going to get to 200 passing. I mean, this is feeling like a game, the way it's trending, that he may only live around 150 passing, but he could have 110 rushing.
That's what makes them so difficult this year, like no other year in the past, really. And they've been an excellent team for at least a decade or more, ever since really I can remember when Harbaugh showed up. And that organization has been, one of the most successful in the NFL. But the fact that they have the dual threat with Henry and Lamar now, look out.
Much more as we will have Colby Dance join us, talk through some college football, and obviously a lot more to highlight